I want to talk about some of the positives on offense because we can kind of nitpick a little bit and find out the medicine that Oregon's going to need to take in this week leading up to Michigan State in a segment coming up here. But there was a lot to like here. You talked about Jordan James, again, 5 yards a carry guy. Tez Johnson, I know, is someone we're going to have more for later. And take away that one pass, Dylan Gabriel's doing his thing again, too. So when you looked at the totality, Will, of the offense's performance tonight, what stood out to you from a positive standpoint?
From a positive standpoint, I mean, your quarterback's standing upright for the most part. He's not having to deal with getting pressured.
Yep.
The interception, that's a strictly Dylan Gabriel issue. It's not like, he was being pressured and then he threw a bad ball. He goes to throw the ball to Tez Johnson. Tez Johnson slips and falls. Your wide receiver's not there. You got to just tuck it and run. But
he probably should have tried to eat it, but
I think
for whatever reason he didn't.
I think he came around the corner and just expected Tez to be there.
Yeah.
And right as he's winding up for his throw, Tez falls, right? And so he can't really pull back, but he kind of tries. It's too late. You've already gone. It's like when a batter is up in the plate and the pitcher throws a good curveball. Batter starts swinging and instantly the top drops off the ball and it's like, leave your bat out there. Hopefully it nicks it and I get another at bat. That's exactly what happened there. Running the ball wise, look, aside from the third quarter, I thought it looked pretty good. First quarter, you moved the ball when you wanted to. Second quarter, you moved the ball when you wanted to. The holes were open. It felt like the offensive line was on the same page the entire time. The issue was in the third quarter, you came out flat again, right? And so when I look at this offense as a whole, you had a bunch of big plays, and you just missed a couple others. So I feel like the offense, for the most part, did what I wanted them to do. You had a third quarter where you didn't live up to the standard. The first, second, and fourth quarters, you lived up to the standard, and you dominated this UCLA team.
And then additionally, we'll have to see what happens over the next week. Hopefully he's back right away. But really the only injury of note, it seemed, throughout the game was to their starting tight end, Terrence Ferguson, who got his bell rung by former Oregon Duck Brian Addison. But what that did, which I felt was interesting and I've wanted to see more of anyways, is it gave Kenyon Sadiq a more prominent role today. He caught 4 passes for 37 yards. None of them were like crazy breakaway, but he's just still such an athlete that I like seeing him get more opportunity. And so whether Ferguson is back or not, I'd like to see them continue to try and distribute the ball to him because I think he's got a lot to offer there.
I like the 2-point play, too, where he throws it over to Ferguson. That was fantastic.
Yep.
It still seems like the number 2 tight end is Herbert for whatever reason. I feel like Sadiq comes in more as a 13 personnel type guy. I also wonder if in certain situations it is 13 personnel, but really in their playbook, it's 12, and they're using him as a true wide receiver H type position.
And for those who might not be as deep on the football lingo, just explain the difference there, what you mean as far as 13 versus 12.
Right. So 13 personnel means 1 running back, 3 tight ends, 12 personnel, 1 running back, 2 tight ends, and then you do the math from there. There's 5 linemen always. You have a quarterback, and then that lets you know how many wide receivers are out, right? 13 personnel, usually more of a heavy rundown situation. But with this Oregon team, you have 2 tight ends who are extremely athletic and great in pass, catching the ball out of the backfield, catching and pass when the team wants to throw the ball. The difference even with Herbert, like I'm out here saying he's not a good pass catcher. That's wrong. He's proven that he can do it too when the ball is put on him.
Sure.
So it just feels like they're trying to find different unique ways to use Sadiq, and there's a part of me that says, like, just sub him in at times at tight end. Like, just let him be him.
Let him run the same routes that Ferguson is running.
Right.
Yeah.
Stop trying to make him a gadget guy and just let him be a guy that has a gadget package.
I'm with that. I like that a lot. I think that's well said. As far as players that I think maybe aren't having the breakout we might expect, or one that I'm starting to scratch my head a little bit about because we've only really seen him prominent in one game, is Evan Stewart. And obviously he's new here. Dylan Gabriel is too. Chemistry is a real thing, but for whatever reason, chemistry with Tez and Trayshawn seems to be pretty good for Gabriel. I don't know if it's if it's something that Stewart's doing in the pass game. I don't know if it's a connection between them. I don't know if it's the plays that are being run, and I'm not sure you're going to be able to tell from that either. But are you concerned at all about the lack of production there?
No, not really, because remember the lack of production from Tez Johnson last year at this time?
Yep.
I remember being really confused expecting Tez Johnson to actually overtake Troy Franklin simply because his quarterback was his brother. Like, they grew up, I mean, obviously not all the way through, but like, they grew up playing high school football together. Like, that's what they did. You would think that in a moment of, I need someone, I need to throw the ball, it's 3rd and 3, I need to find my most trustworthy wide receiver, you would think that Bo Nix would have found Tez Johnson. And obviously he did as the season went on, but it never felt like Tez overtook that role from Troy Franklin. It felt like around week 7 or 8, Tez popped, and then he was able to become a big key point of that offense the rest of the way. There's no saying that Evan Stewart can't be that guy as it goes. It just shows to me that Tez Johnson, he popped. It's almost like he finally figured it out. Not that he wasn't doing well beforehand, but he exploded to being a wide receiver 1 type player. And then this year, he's just taking it and running with it. Like, maybe it's not Evan Stewart's fault that he only had a couple catches in this game.
Sure.
You know, maybe Tez Johnson was just open more. Maybe Tez Johnson made more guys miss him in pass coverage.
Maybe based on what's happened already, that's just the first place Dylan's looking right now, or it's the first thing in his progression.
I would.
There's a handful of reasons that could be the case.
I would, wouldn't you? Like, right now, you have a dude who's been in the system for 2 years, who knows all the routes, who also knows the different adjustments that he needs to make that will make that play work better, right? He knows how to get himself open easier. And he keeps scoring. He keeps finding ways to get open. He keeps finding ways to get in the end zone. That doesn't mean that Evan Stewart isn't open also. But if Evan Stewart is open on a hitch route, but I've got Tez Johnson one-on-one in a spot where he's going to continue to outrun the corner, why wouldn't I throw it up to him? He's proven that he can be successful. He keeps having big plays. He has a touchdown in every game so far this year.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep feeding that guy the ball.
He's unbelievable. I know we'll talk about him a little bit more later. Want to give you a chance to respond to this text as well. This one from the Vancouver 4 text line says, Will and Buck, can you please say something to get Ducks social media to chill the F out? Will Stein and our O-line were the greatest thing ever until the pick 6 and momentum change. Then it was back to fire Stein. Our O-line is garbage, and we're going to lose at least 3 games in the Big Ten. For God's sake, let's see. Now, these are kids who dealt with a sudden momentum shift at 10 p.m. at night. The deboed their backs. They did their thing, and the offense eventually got its mojo back. You think that our team is hot and cold? They've got nothing on some Duck fans.
I told that texter flat out, just ignore the crazies, man. Yeah. They're fans for a reason. Fans are fan is short for fanatics.
And the vocal minority is just that. They're the minority. They may be loud, but that doesn't speak for everybody. I think that most Duck fans should feel pretty content and satisfied in tonight's victory. It was nothing if not convincing. Are there things that you could pick apart? Absolutely. Will we do that? Yeah, we will. But you always talk about the game should look a certain way. Mm-hmm. For the first 29 and a half minutes, it absolutely looked that way, and there was never any doubt that it was going to go any other direction than that.
And honestly, for your defense, it largely looked like that as well.
Yeah.
Like the entire time.
The whole game.
Your offense took the third quarter off.
Your defense allowed 2 field goals all game, and one of them was after a 17-yard drive. So, and the other was on the first drive of the game. So that's about as much as you can ask from that unit. That's why we led the show with them. Just a fantastic performance from them.